Welcome back to another Tandemkross video. Today we're taking a look at a trigger upgrade for the Taurus TX22, and as a disclaimer to YouTube and to our viewers, this trigger is not a conversion part or regulated item. This is just a trigger shoe and it does not change the rate of fire. Right off the bat, the TX22 is already a super solid rimfire pistol. It's reliable, it's affordable, and honestly, it's just fun to shoot. It's one of my favorites personally, but with many factory triggers, there's often a little room for improvement. So let's dive into the Victory trigger upgrade from Tandemkross. The first thing you're gonna notice with this trigger is its unique design. It's a flat face trigger made of lightweight and durable aluminum, and if you've never used a flat trigger before, it does feel a little bit different at first, but one major advantage is the felt or perceived pull weight. The flat face encourages you to pull straight back instead of rolling your finger through the trigger like you might with a curved trigger. The trigger being flat also gives you better leverage by letting you pull it from a lower position, which in turn gives you a really consistent pull and decreases the felt and perceived pull weight. Also, being machined from aluminum also prevents trigger flex, which is something that's gonna happen with a lot of your plastic trigger shoes, making each pull even more consistent. The surface of the trigger also features a knurled texture. Whether your hands are sweaty, dry, or cold, this gives you extra grip and control on the trigger shoe itself to keep your finger placement the same for repeatable shots and trigger pulls. Another unique feature that makes the Victory trigger amazing is its adjustability. This trigger lets you adjust both pre-travel and post-travel, and you could significantly reduce the amount of movement you have before the trigger actually breaks or how much it over-travels after the break. This lets you dial it in so the trigger feels exactly how you want it to feel every single time. The trigger comes in two colors. You have a choice of either black or red, so you can make sure that you're fitting the look that you're going for with your TX. Whether you are a competition shooter, casually plinking in the backyard, or just using your TX as a training method for other pistols, this trigger is for you. And now I'm gonna show you how to install the Victory trigger. Let's do it. All right, now let's move into the actual installation process for the Victory trigger from Tandemkross for the TX22 from Taurus. For this installation, you are going to need a small punch, something like a 5/64 inch punch, a flathead screwdriver, the 1.5 millimeter Allen key that is included with your trigger. I'm gonna be using a T-handle, some blue Loctite, a mallet, some needle nose pliers, and a punch block is gonna be handy, as well as a vise, but these are not absolutely crucial. Just gonna clean up my workspace here. And then before we do anything further, we of course want to run our safety check. We wanna make sure that there is no magazine in the mag well, the chamber is clear, and then we're set to start working. To remove the slide from the grip frame, again, once you've done your safety check, point it in a safe direction, pull that trigger, pull down on the takedown latch here, and just slide the slide forward and off the frame. And for the next step of the installation, we're going to be removing the internals from the grip frame by punching out these 4 pins right here. Now, of course, a punch block is super handy. You can certainly do it without it, but it's gonna make your life a lot easier. Some of these are tougher than others, so please bear with me. Make sure you don't lose these, by the way. All right, and now for the next part of the installation, I'm gonna try and lift the control block, which contains the trigger and all that stuff, and the fire control unit in the back, out kinda at the same time so we don't have it fall everywhere. You may need to, there we go, just like that, get it started with like a flathead screwdriver or something. But once you take it out, you can go ahead and set your frame aside. Please be mindful that the takedown lever does have a actual spring that is compressed in there, so make sure you don't lose that. And now naturally these are going to want to come apart. You can separate these very easily, but be mindful that your slide lock here, your slide lock lever, is probably going to want to just come right off, and then you're going to have the slide lock spring. You can go ahead and set that aside as well. Do not lose that. It's going to go back in that little cutout right there. Now we're going to go ahead and flip the central block over, and using either an Allen key or a small punch, we are going to disconnect the trigger spring. And once you pry that free of the central block here, it's just gonna unhook from the actual trigger bar. We'll go ahead and set that aside as well with those pins. Now we're gonna flip it back over once again, and with the needle nose pliers, we're gonna grab the trigger pin and pull that out. Just like that. Now your trigger is gonna come out nice and free. For right now, go ahead and set that central block aside. Now this is where some sort of tabletop vise is gonna be really, really helpful, because the objective here is to flex the trigger a little bit so that the trigger bar itself can actually come off of the little pin that's holding it inside the trigger shoe. So I'm not gonna put it in there too tight because I don't wanna damage the actual trigger itself, but I am gonna be careful that there's a little bit of wiggle room here so I can actually flex this, because of course if you hug it tight, you're not gonna be able to flex it. So make sure you have a little bit, maybe like a ½ inch or so of space between the vise and the part that we're working with here. And now to get the trigger bar out, you're just gonna wanna flex the wall of the trigger shoe here outwards. That way you can wiggle out the trigger bar. I'm gonna try to do this while keeping everything on camera. I am actually gonna grab a smaller screwdriver because I already have some flex in my trigger shoe because I've already done this before with this specific trigger. So let's get in there, pry it to the right a little bit, and then clear that pin and pull out the trigger bar. As you can see, that was the little pin that it was sitting on. So that's why we flexed the trigger shoe outwards so we could pull it to the right and off. Make sure we keep all of our pieces together here. And then we're going to be prepping our victory trigger for installation. A quick note about my victory trigger. Mine is, I reverted back to the factory trigger just for this video. This has been in my pistol for close to 5 years now. So there is some leftover Loctite and things like that on it, and just some very general wear and tear, although it still looks fantastic for being 5 years old. So we have the trigger shoe itself, and then we're gonna have our set screws for the trigger adjustment, which are these screws here with the nylon tips. And then we're gonna have our cap screw, which is gonna be what holds the trigger bar into the trigger shoe itself. All right, and now we are going to be prepping the actual trigger shoe for install. So we're gonna be taking our set screws here. One is shorter than the other, and the shorter of the two is going to go into the front of the trigger in this hole right here, right above the trigger face, with the nylon tip down and the drive head up. So again, just confirm that it is the shorter of the two set screws. Mine already have the remnants of Loctite from my first installation on there, but it's been many years, so let's go ahead and just add a little bit of a dab of blue medium strength Loctite, and I'm gonna get it started with my hand. And now you can use the included 1.5mm Allen key or a T-handle like myself, just to snug it down until you have about 1/32 inch of space on the top of it. You do not want to drive it flush or all the way through. And now the objective here is to make sure that that screw allows the trigger to be perpendicular to the actual central block. And now we're going to take the longer of the two set screws and do the same thing. I'm going to apply some medium strength blue thread locker. You can be very conservative with the amount that you use. That was probably a little bit too much, but it's okay. And this one is going to go in the bottom of the trigger with the nylon tip up. So again, I will get this one started as much as I can with my hand without taking off all that blue Loctite. Then I'm going to start threading that in there as well. And I'm going to thread this through just until you start to see the actual screw below the nylon tip, just like that. Almost flush with the front one. And now a good way to test if you're on the right track here is to just drop that trigger pin back in with the trigger shoe in there, and just make sure you don't have a ton of travel. And after putting that pin in and just kind of looking at how the trigger moves, I can tell that I've gone a little bit too far on the front trigger adjustment screw, and maybe not enough on the back one. So this is why we're doing this now, so we can dial it in. Because again, you want the trigger to be perpendicular to the actual central unit here, central block. So we're gonna go ahead and just snug this one down just a little bit more in the front. and that might solve all of our issues. And just like that, the trigger is perpendicular to the actual block, and the over travel screw looks good as well. It is worth noting that because the drive head is on the bottom of the screw here, you can actually adjust your over travel without having to take the trigger out of the central block. And now for the next step, we are going to take our trigger bar and insert it into the slot in the back of the trigger shoe, and then retain it using the cap screw that is included with the Victory trigger. Add a little bit more blue Loctite on there. Orientation is as shown. If the trigger is facing this way, you want to make sure that the back of the trigger bar arches down a little bit. And just start to screw that in. Eventually, you will get it snug down and your trigger bar will be attached to your trigger shoe. And next we're going to flip the whole central block over because we are going to reinstall the trigger tension spring. The easiest way I've found to do this is to hook one side onto the bottom of that open spot in the trigger bar till it hooks on like that. Put it kind of in a forward upwards position and then tilt it. Then just grab a punch or a small tool and just pop it on to the little piece here that's on the actual central block. So it is being stretched between the central block and the actual trigger bar. And then next we're going to flip it over once again because we're going to be reinstalling the slide lock and the slide lock spring. The easiest way I've found to do this is to kind of try and angle it. Doesn't help when there's stuff on your hands because the spring wants to stick to it. And then once it's sitting in there, we're going to take the actual slide release itself. As you can see, there's a little hole that's going to go on the actual trigger pin there. And then there's a little ear at the bottom, and that's what's going to compress the spring upwards. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on, lift it up over the ear on the central block, try to grab that spring, and then once you've cleared that little ear there, it is going to be in place. But I'd be careful not to let go of this yet because sometimes the spring tension can actually launch the slide release out. And now I'm going to grab our vise. You can do this without a vise. It just gets infinitely easier to do with a vise. I'm just going to open it up so it has enough space to fit our frame. And now I'm going to take the fire control group in the back. And the way that these are going to kind of fit together is there's the hook here on the actual trigger bar. It's going to go in this little space underneath your safety on the right side of the fire control block. So once you hook that in, just like that, next, your slide release is going to rest right into the cutout on the side near the safety. And now, being careful not to dump everything out, we are going to take all of these things and just slowly drop them into place. Sometimes the slide release can be very, very stubborn. So sometimes you'll have to just give that some extra oomph to get it in there. And now that we have all the guts back in the pistol, we are gonna go ahead and just get these pins started. Some of these are going in much easier than they used to. My intention was to just get them started, so maybe just a light tap, just like that. And now, before we call this one done and drive in all these pins, we just want to do a quick function check by taking our slide, putting it back on the grip frame, charging it, of course, still no ammunition in the pistol, and just dry firing, just like that. And now I'm happy with that, so we can go ahead, use that takedown lever again, and we are going to drive in the rest of these pins. You can certainly do that with your grip frame and your slide together, but just so I'm careful because I have a small little punch block here, I'm going to do it without. And some of these pins are very, very stubborn, so I might actually have to finish this back one with the actual punch. It's gonna be easier to do on this side. And now the reason we did the dry fire test before I actually drove those pins in is just in case you wanted to change anything about the trigger pull, adjust the over travel or the pre-travel before you actually commit and put the pistol all back together. Now again, to put our slide back on the grip frame, easiest way is just to line up the rear serrations with this ear here on the fire control block, slide it on, go ahead and charge it back, let go, and you are in business. Just like that, you've installed your victory trigger for the TX22. Thank you all so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. We'll see you next time. Happy plinking.
We appreciate you watching our videos. We have hundreds of others on the channel, so make sure you check those out. Please like and subscribe, and find us on social media everywhere by searching Tandemkross. Let us know if you have any questions in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you.